I said the Lions won a game. Man, we going all the way, baby. We about to celebrate. Why?
And we are back. Great Lakes State Football, episode 50. Very special episode. I am Vince.
I'm Kory.
And I'm Brett. And hope your movie's good, Tate. We're missing you tonight.
Unbelievable. Tate has bailed on us on a very important episode as we talk to a couple coaches here. We're going to bring on our first guests of the season. It's been a while since we've had some guests on outside of Cannon from Goose Poop. We have not had a guest on since I think we said Coach Buer when he got hired at Northwood way back in February was the last guest that we had on. We had Jake Witt of Northern Michigan and Isaac Tesla of Hillsdale, now Arkansas, on earlier this year, but it's been a while since we've had a guest on. So we will be having on two high school football coaches here for this episode. We'll first be bringing on West Bloomfield's first-year head coach, Zach Hilbers. Although he is in his first year as a head coach with West Bloomfield, he has been there for 17 years overall coaching. So we'll be talking about his matchup with Clarkston here. And then we will follow that up by bringing on Coach Marc Cisco, who is in his 15th year, if I did my math correctly there.
14th.
Yes. 14th or 15th?
2009.
15th season. 15th season at Byron Center. So we'll be bringing on Coach Cisco to talk about Byron Center's matchup with East Lansing this week. Before we get to those two interviews, though, here, I would be remiss to not talk about our sponsor. Our show is brought to you by NeuroPeak Pro's Intel Belt. The NeuroPeak Pro's Intel Belt is a premier device that revolutionizes performance training through their proprietary precision breathing and heart rate variability training. Download the NeuroPeak Pro app to conduct training sessions and learn to breathe in a way that helps to maximize your performance in the game, at work, at home, and when it matters most. The Intel Belt uses Bluetooth technology to connect to the NeuroPeak Pro app, where you will be able to conduct precision breathing training sessions and monitor HRV in real time, gain insight into your breathing metrics and progress, learn how to adopt a successful breathing practice with video instruction from the NeuroPeak Pro team, unlock instructional content specific to your areas of interest, learn to utilize precision breathing training in your everyday life to help you maximize your potential. You can get 20% off your purchase of an Intel Belt with our code GLSFB. That is 20% off your purchase of an Intel Belt with code GLSFB. Thank you to NeuroPeak Pro and their Intel Belt. All right, gentlemen, with that, let's get into some high school football here before we get into our first interview with Coach Zach Hilbers from West Bloomfield. We want to talk about a couple games that we went to. So Brett and Tate went to the Caledonia Byron Center game. We're going to talk about that game here in a little bit with our interview with Byron Center's head coach, Coach Cisco. Kory went to the Portland Hastings game, and I managed to go to the Mason DeWitt game. I will just go ahead and kick it off because mine was the least interesting. Mason put quite a whooping on DeWitt, 42-7 in a district championship game played at Mason. Very impressive showing by Mason to beat DeWitt twice, ending, I think we tweeted this on Friday night, DeWitt had been to 5 straight semifinals and had won 7 straight district titles. So that run has ended. Both of those runs have ended as Mason beats DeWitt in the district championship game. DeWitt ends their streak at 7-3, which is also their worst record, I believe, since it was either 2009 or 2008 was the last time they didn't win 9 or more games. I think it was 2008. I think it had been 15 years since they hadn't won at least 9 games. And their 7-year district title streak ends, and 5-year semifinal streak ends as well. So anyway, Mason playing Walled Lake Western, another rematch for them, had to rematch DeWitt in the district championship game, a team they beat week 2 in a non-conference matchup at DeWitt. Now they turn around and have to play Walled Lake Western, who they beat in a non-conference matchup week 8. Handily. I think it was 30-7 was the score of that game. Now they have to turn around and 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks later play him again. And I don't know if you guys know this, Mason has to go. So week 8 they played at Walled Lake Western. They have to go to Walled Lake Western again Walled Lake Western, even though Mason beat them, Walled Lake Western has more playoff points than Mason.
Wow.
So they have to turn around and go there and beat them a second time, which is wild to me. So Mason is definitely going to be earning this run this year. If they do manage to take down Walled Lake Western a second time, I'd be very shocked if they didn't with how Mason's playing right now. Mason's playing about as well as anyone in the state of Michigan. If they do manage to take down Walled Lake Western, there's a chance that they could be playing Martin Luther King for a third straight year in the semifinals. Martin Luther King is playing River Rouge on the other side of that region. Now, River Rouge, I could see that one going either way. I personally would be picking River Rouge to beat Martin Luther King. I think River Rouge has had a much more impressive season thus far than King has. River Rouge is also on a 6-game tear right now. They started the season 1-4 with losses to some very, very good teams, including a 7-point loss to Belleville, and have since won 6 straight games. So I could see River Rouge beating MLK, and then that would be a really tough matchup for Mason as well. Kory, you want to talk about the Portland Hastings game real quick?
Yeah, so I got the opportunity to go to Portland Hastings at Hastings. Interesting that Hastings had more playoff points than Portland going into the playoffs, where Portland was undefeated. Hastings was sitting at 7-2. Anyway, great atmosphere at Hastings. If you haven't been there, small town in kind of like the middle west side of Michigan-ish. Anyway, small town, packed atmosphere. Both sides of the stands were honestly standing room only. Hastings runs a straight T, and then Portland runs their veer concept offense-ish thing. But it was super good, very back and forth, touchdown for touchdown in the first half, very high scoring. It was kind of one of those things where you're like, all right, well, if Portland can't stop the run, it's just going to be a long night for them. And it was just going to be a shootout. But Portland did, in fact, stop the run coming out of halftime. Got up a couple touchdowns, and then Hastings really couldn't keep up because they don't have a pass game coming out of that straight T. So Portland took care of business. They play Niles at Niles this week, about a 2-hour and 30-minute drive from Portland. So that'll be interesting. It's Friday at 7. So we'll see how the kids adapt to that drive coming out of school. I'm assuming they're going to leave early to get down there, make sure they have adequate time to adjust and do all that fun stuff. But they will play the winner of Big Rapids, Grand Rapids, South Christian. South Christian sitting at 8-3, Big Rapids at 10-1. Big Rapids with a huge upset win over Whitehall with a blocked field goal. So it'll be interesting.
I'd have to imagine Niles did that on purpose.
I agreed. I told my mom and my brother that they would be playing Friday.
100%. It's
sure.
smart. It's smart.
The
home team gets to choose.
I think there's an agreement though if it's over a certain distance.
To my knowledge, the home team gets to choose whether it's Friday or Saturday.
No, if it's over a certain threshold of distance, it's an agreement among ADs.
Can you confirm that for us?
Well, I don't know what idiot. I don't know what idiot AD would choose Friday at 7 after 2.5 hour drive.
I can't imagine Portland agreeing to that. That would shock me if Portland agreed to that. I would imagine Portland would have argued for Saturday to give them an extra. Yeah, because like Kory, like you just said, to have to go through school and get out of school and leave. Well, you got to get out of school early. You go to school and then you get released early, but just to have to be in school and then released early for that long drive for a regional championship game, you would think it'd be better to have you get your full school day Friday. You probably have a walk through practice Friday night, something simple and light, get a full night's sleep. And then I don't know what Portland would do, but us at Grand Ledge last year, we had our kids get up Saturday morning and do another light walkthrough just to get them up and moving at like 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning, give them breakfast. But they don't have that. You're going down on a Friday night, all the way down into Southwest Michigan there. So,
and I texted my brother, it must have been Sunday evening, Monday morning. And I said, hey, when's your game? And he still didn't know. And he's not dumb. So I definitely was like, I don't know if they knew, or maybe they were hemming and hawing, who knows, but it's going to be a tough one. Niles is good.
I would say Niles is the best team they've played.
Oh, yeah. It still worries me. I don't think you can run the ball and beat Portland. I will say that. If you can pass the ball, Portland's offense scares me. I know Portland's got some talent. Junior quarterback Navarro, who is Coach Navarro's son, kid can place the ball, super composed in the pocket, throws the ball well, and their running back 24, Caden Thalen, dude's just a stud. If he as a former coach, he drives me crazy to watch because he makes that extra cut that he doesn't need to make. Like, dude, just run straight and you will probably run by everybody. And he really loves that extra cut. So if somebody can tell him between now and Friday, don't make the extra cut, just run, I think Portland probably could make a run at a state title.
And then obviously if they do manage to take down Niles, they have their work cut out for them, in the semifinal game. They'd be playing the winner of Grand Rapids South Christian. I imagine South Christian will win that game, and South Christian won the state title last year.
Whitehall.
That is true. I guess I should not speak ill of Big Rapids after they pulled off one of the biggest upsets in the state.
All of football.
In the whole state last week. I don't think anyone expected them to beat Whitehall. Whitehall was absolutely rolling. So,
what did Goosepoop say? 15-point dog.
Yeah, it was one of his biggest upsets of the week, according to his model. Yeah, Grand Rapids Christian or South Christian playing very, very well. Obviously, won the state title last year. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Speaking of big upsets, Brett watched probably the other. I'd say maybe you guys could tell me if I'm wrong. This after Whitehall's upset, probably the next biggest upset was the game that Brett was at. Brett, you want to talk about? We'll talk about it in our interview here with Coach Cisco in a second. But you want to talk about the game you saw?
Yeah, so I went to the Caledonia Byron Center game. Caledonia obviously being the favorite in this game, played in the state championship in Division I last year. Got bumped down to be one of the bigger schools in Division II. They had one loss going into this game, with the only loss being to Rockford. Caledonia was the first team to score. At one point in the first half, it was 21-7. Byron Center was down. It looked like Caledonia had quite a bit of control of the game. A couple of turnovers and some penalties. Next thing you know, Byron Center's back in the game. And the only time Byron Center was leading at one point in the game, 25-21, and then Caledonia went up 28-25. And then
how did they get off those 18 points? Did they have like a extra point block? Wait, how'd they get 18? How'd they go from 7 to 25?
They had 3 touchdowns, and then they had an extra.
All the conversions were blocked or were no good.
2 or 1 was blocked, and then they ended up going for 2 the other 2 times and not converting.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
And they also
they ripped off 18 unanswered to take the lead.
Yeah, and they also had there was a blocked field goal that Caledonia blocked a Byron Center field goal during that time too.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a fantastic game. It was a very packed stadium. It's a big stadium. Caledonia has turf now too. Nice concourse. I walked all the way around the football field at halftime. Loved doing that. Got all the kids playing in the end zones. The Byron Center stands are packed. Caledonia is probably 90% full. It was kind of funny. I was joking with my wife. She works at Caledonia. The theme for the night was Christmas. So all the students on the Caledonia side were wearing Santa hats. And I don't know how you can get hyped to this, but they were playing like Jingle Bell Rock during the breaks. I have videos of it. It's absolutely hilarious. Rocking around the Christmas tree but it'd go from like rap music to this. It was pretty funny. But yeah, so long story short, Byron Center ended up winning the game 31-28. A drive with less than a minute left, no timeouts, 88 yards all the way down the field to take the lead and win the game. So it was a fantastic game. Great athletes. I know Caledonia has 2 guys going to Central, a couple more that will end up going to Division II. Not so sure about the athletes on the Byron Center side. I was super impressed with wide receiver Isaac Lee and quarterback Logan Tungate, 2 juniors. They were really impressive for juniors. They got a great senior running back, and his last name's Otto. I can't remember his first name. but he made a lot of plays in offense and defense. It was just a fantastic football game. Going to the game, it was raining, and I was like, oh, we're not going to stay for long if it's raining. Right when we got to the game, the rain stopped, and there was not a raindrop until the game ended. It was perfect timing.
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be. But yeah, it was a fantastic game, and very surprised that Byron Center ended up winning.
Well, all right, gentlemen. With that, do we want to go ahead and transition into our first interview, first coaches conversation here?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we do have two coaches coming on. We'll get to the first one here. Our first coach is going to be Zach Hilbers, the first-year head football coach at West Bloomfield. As we will talk about with him, while he is a first-year head coach, it is actually his 17th year with the program, and he's also a West Bloomfield grad. So we'll be talking about their season and their matchup coming up here with Clarkston. So stay tuned. That interview will be coming at you right now. Going to go ahead and transition into the interview portion of the podcast here. We got on Coach Hilbers, West Bloomfield, first-year head coach, 2003 West Bloomfield grad, has now been a member of the program as a coach, though, for 17 years overall, 16 years as an assistant before becoming the head coach here. Coach Hilbers, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm just, really glad to be here. Thank you.
Like we said, enjoying that beautiful November weather here in Michigan, enjoying those practices.
Yeah, for sure, man. I told the kids week one of the playoffs, you don't have to be here anymore. You get to be here. That's the mentality you have to have every single week that you get. You have the opportunity to practice this week because not everybody does. So whether it's raining or cold, we'll try to take care of you as best we can. But it's an opportunity that we're really, thankful and blessed to have.
I loved those playoff practices too, man. They seemed like the intensity just went up. It was like anything in playoffs, obviously you're competing for your opportunity to play, but
for sure, man. We bring up a couple, JV kids and even a couple of kids from the freshman team this year to kind of see what they got, give us a look. And man, my senior free safety hit this kid that first Tuesday, which is our first padded day of that week one, and this kid just had no idea what was coming. And he said, "I'm not losing this week."
That welcome to varsity. To varsity kind of hit. Yeah, I know our coach always said, man, when those leaves are coming off the trees and turning colors, if you're still playing and practicing, that's always a good feeling.
The best.
State of Michigan, you know what time of year it is if those leaves are changing and falling on the ground.
Yeah.
So Coach, kind of one of our first questions we wanted to get in with you here is obviously being a West Bloomfield alum. It's got to be pretty special to be a part of this 10-year stretch you guys are on. Obviously, I mean, there's no way about it. It's the best 10-year stretch in school history, 10 straight playoff appearances. I think 4 plus 10 or more win seasons, state championship, state runner-up, multiple district titles, including this season. So what does that mean to you as obviously a 17-year member of the coaching staff, but also as an alum?
It's funny. If I actually stop and think about it, it probably gets to me a little bit more. And if I just kind of put my head down and try to take it day by day, you don't think about it as much. But since you asked, it's pretty special. I got a lot of now former players that are also alums, that are on our coaching staff, and just because I know going through it all, and I honestly 16 years ago, when I was 21 when I first got the job, as an assistant coach, I stumbled into it, and I never really considered it something that was I was going to do this my whole life, but I stumbled into it, thought it'd be fun for a few years, and never left. And now I'm teaching the building too. And, so yeah, you're right. It's been kind of this crazy run. And Coach Bellamy did such a great job of laying that foundation for us years ago. And Coach Gray is continuing it. And I'm just, blessed and fortunate to be able to, kind of keep that going. But yeah, it's just been a blast. And, I try to get guys around me that kind of have that same experience as I do. Now, they might have had a little bit more success in their playing careers than my guys did when I played. But, we got a lot of, like I said, former players and alum on our staff because we know it just means a little bit more to us.
Speaking of Coach Bellamy, what has that transition kind of been like? And I'm sure you guys have kept in touch. I mean, he's not that far removed from the program. I'm sure he's very excited for you guys as you've continued the success just 1 year removed here.
Yeah, he's a great guy, man, and he keeps in touch with me, I should say. I always feel so bad. Like I feel like he's the busiest guy in the world. I can't call him in the middle of football season, but he'll call me on the way to work, and he lives in just about 10-15 minutes down the road from
Right.
me. So like we're basically neighbors, and I see him in the summer, his kid practicing baseball and stuff. We're just able to chat and talk it up. And with the NCAA rules, you can only visit West Bloomfield so often every year. Whenever he comes by, he makes sure to tease me and give me a hard time, tell me everything looks disorganized, I'm ruining everything done. But just an unbelievable resource for me, and really a friend too.
So, speaking of the success transitioning from Coach Bellamy into this season, was there any specific moment this season at hand where you guys kind of knew that you had this run in you? Was there a certain standout game or win in particular that you're like, oh, this is a team that we can make another run, like similar to the 2020 team, and you're the runner up, and was that 2017, I believe?
17, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The easy answer is yeah, there's a moment, but I guess the more detailed and complex answers, it was a really non-linear year for us. We thought we had a really strong senior-led defense that was going to be the backbone of our team, and we lost 2 senior captains, one early in training camp and one about a quarter into week 1 against Chippewa Valley. So it's like, oh my gosh, like, are we going to be able to survive this? And like, yeah, we're still a pretty good team, but did that ceiling maybe drop a little bit for us?
Well, with the competition you guys play, that's
no shit,
no slouch of a schedule.
Between the OAA Red and we played 2 MAC Red teams now, and yeah, I mean, that was difficult. What's going to happen? When you lose 4-year varsity player, 3-year varsity player, 2 captains like that are really built your whole defense around. And obviously we still have a lot of other really good players, and we're in a more fortunate situation than a lot of other high school teams. I understand that. But, at the same time, it's like, did our ceiling drop a little bit? And we played a lot of young guys, and some of them got hurt. And, we went into week 5 this year with, from our original 11 on defense, 6 starters were out. And it's like, that's a tough
more than half your defense, man.
Yeah, it was a tough position.
Like the Lions.
Yeah. Right. But like those guys that got those opportunities, man, they got better and better. They embraced it, and they played better and better football as the year went on. We kind of reinvented ourselves a little bit on that side of the ball. And then some of those guys that, weren't as serious injuries, they're starting to come back now the last few weeks. And so you're starting to kind of reintroduce them to your lineup. And, it started, I guess we realized again, after we beat Southfield in week 8, like, we can still beat really good teams. We went out to Lake Orion in week 4 and competed and lost a close game. And it's like, all right, we can compete on the road. Like that's a good thing to know, that you lose a game in the last minute, it's not ideal, but they're a good team. And we went up there and competed. And that was encouraging. And, we had some bumps along the way, as what happens when you play a lot of young kids. But, hey, when it comes down to it, there's 8 teams left. And, we just think, hey, this week we have a chance. And that's all we care about.
Having that opportunity
too. Jesus, we're all talking. Sorry. I was gonna say I love that mentality that you just said about Lake Orion. Like, as a football player and a competitor, when you just lost a game, and when you just got like dominated. And for you to say, hey, we went to Lake Orion, we competed, and we just lost a game, like, it's okay. You're gonna lose games. Yeah. And I just love that mentality that you just showed, because a lot of people would overreact and be like, oh, see, they can't win it. They can't beat Lake Orion. But it's like, no, we competed, and you get what you get.
Yeah, for sure. And their environment up there is just a great home environment. They packed that place. It was loud, and we played really well in a lot of ways. And to be honest, like, there's a few decisions I made in the 4th quarter that I was obviously pretty confident in. They just didn't work. And you see that when it starts to go sideways, and they had it's a long time ago, 60+ yard drive in the last couple minutes to go out and win the game. And I was like, hey, tip your hat. They got good players, and they beat us. But like you said, we can go there and play at that level, you got a chance.
So speaking of, the conference that you guys play in, kind of A common theme here, I feel like, for a lot of the Division One programs around the state right now is turning around and having to play some of those exact same conference foes. First, second round of the playoffs. You guys are looking at doing it for a second time in 3 weeks. You beat Adams in the regular season, close game, and then put together. I'm sure maybe you could confirm must have been one of your best games of the year to, beat a team like Adams, who has had tons of success. To beat them that handily, come out 42-14, quite a butt whooping you guys put on them there. And then 2 weeks later, got to turn around and play another team from your conference in the regional championship, Clarkston, who you lost in a tight one. Has there been any kind of, special, you don't have to tell us your X's and O's or anything here, but any kind of special messages or kind of things you're conveying to the team in terms of turning around, having to play a second conference foe again in 3 weeks here?
Yeah, and I don't know if that's just the nature of Division One right now, because like you said, we've been in the playoffs for a few years. And I remember in 17 when we went on our first, I guess, long run. We had a rematch week 1 against Bloomfield Hills, and then it was you're playing Waterford Mott. We played Eisenhower, which at the time was the first time we'd ever played them, and we played Cass Tech for the first time ever in the semis. So it was, I don't know, maybe it felt like D1 was a bigger pool a few years ago. And now with the restructuring of the playoffs, at least on this side of the state, if you get put in that certain side of the bracket, Clarkston, if they make it to the state finals, it's going to play all OAA or MAC teams. Us, if we make it from that 4, we're going to play all OAA or MAC teams. Chippewa Valley, if they make it, is going to play all OAA or MAC teams. Now Southfield High, they played Fordson, they played Cass Tech, so they bounced around a little bit, but I guess it's not unique to us. The Grand Rapids schools in Division One seems
Rockford,
to be a pot of
yep.
every year, and it's like they're running through their league again. And
yep.
See who makes it out this time.
Lapeer and Davison, the Flint League, has to deal with that too.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, I don't know if it's, again, the nature of Division One, and even though I try to follow all the divisions, I don't know, I guess, the historical intricacies the same as the ones that are to us. But yeah, it's never fun playing a team a second time. Even Adams, first round of the playoffs, their stud tight end, I don't know how well this is known, he kind of got dinged up in the second quarter, and he's a warrior. He kept playing, but he wasn't the same. And quarterback got hurt in third quarter. He's a heck of an athlete, heck of a baseball player, heck of a football player. And, things kind of just bounced our way for a bit. And, it kind of went from like a close 21-7 contested game. And a few minutes later, it was like, oh, we got this one. But yeah, I guess to answer your question, eventually is we know that we can compete against these guys.
Right.
We lost the game at Clarkston early in the year, was full of mistakes on our side of the ball. And that's not to take anything away from them. I mean, it's Clarkston football. Their success speaks for itself, especially this time of year. That's all they seem to do is win games in the playoffs. Yeah. We see these guys like every single year,
I'm surprised you didn't mention the end of that 2017 team. Or that 2017 season. I was waiting for you to mention that, how crazy it was that you guys played a conference foe in the state title. I will never forget how crazy that went, because I was at that game and I remember thinking how bizarre it was that 2 teams from the same conference in Division One are playing in the state championship.
Yeah, I total points score too.
Yeah,
2-3. Wasn't the final score 2-3?
Yes, it was. And I still got a few buddies to this day that, if a baseball game or NHL games ends 3-2, they screenshot the final and send it to me. And it's like, oh, cool. Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, but, what went into that, I mean, not to get, I guess, too back into 2017, but, they were a completely different defense when we played them in the state titles. And, they revamped themselves and, took away what we did best and really took advantage of some of our mistakes and obviously played a really good, clean game. And we did in a lot of ways too, just only on one side of the football. And yeah, that's what kind of goes to say how difficult it can be when you play a team in your league. Forget the rematch. I mean, we've played these guys every year the last, I don't know, however many years. We had a few years off, if I remember, in like the early 2010s or so. But I believe Clarkston High School is the team historically we've played the most. Maybe Milford is, but we know each other, and that can be both good or bad. They got some studs on their side of the ball that, we're trying to figure out how to stop. And, but when it comes down to it, we think we made a lot of mistakes up there. And if we can kind of fix some of those, we got a chance. And we got lucky enough to get a home game in the regional. So, hey, we're just going to go out there and just try to play clean football and hope for the best.
As I always like to tell people, I think there's no harder sport to try and beat a team twice than football. I think it's a very tough challenge. Although you guys did it this year, so that's pretty impressive to beat a team twice.
Yeah, and the hard thing is, it's like, if you win the first game, you're kind of caught in this situation where it's like, well, do we do the same stuff because it worked? Or do you try to think one step ahead of you, like try to guess their adjustments, because if you don't do what worked and you end up losing, you probably feel like an idiot, But if you do what worked and just assume it's going to happen again with no other backup plan, you're probably not in the best position either. So, and sometimes, and we'll find out this week, if you don't come on top that first game, you're the one that's trying to figure out what went wrong and fix everything. And maybe that puts you in a better spot.
And we just checked, Coach, if you want a little fun trivia fact, since 1950, you guys have played Clarkston 57 times, Milford 38. So quite a big difference.
All right. So it was a big difference. Those are the first two?
Yeah. Shout out to Michigan. Okay. Shout out to MichiganFootball.com. Gotta love that website.
It's a great website, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, all right, Coach. Kind of wrapping things up here. So obviously Clarkston, I believe game is Friday night, right? You guys aren't playing some of the regional championships are usually played on Saturday, but not all of them. Friday night, 7:00 at West Bloomfield. Definitely a game that I'm sure a lot of people will be coming to support for both teams, but just looking for some great high school football as well. Is there anything for fans or just even casual fans of high school football that might be coming that they should look out for or be watching for? Anything that you guys do particularly well that they should make sure they're not checking their phone or going to the bathroom during offense or defense or something they should be watching for?
Well, let's start with you. I'll talk about their two kids first. And they're more than two kids. Like, they got these two running backs, and I'm pretty sure are brothers. They played really well against us the first time we played. I think they're sophomores. Quarterbacks playing with a lot of confidence. Collins, he's gotten better and better. It's not the biggest offensive line Clarkston has ever had, but man, are they good with their feet. You can see like they get their hips around people on their inside outside zone, and they're just exceptionally well coached. And then Desmond Stevens and Brady Cozen, they've been just, I don't know if you saw the Lake Orion game, but they just made play after play after play in the fourth quarter. Same thing, the Romeo game, and they're good players. Are playing really good football, just playing really confident right now. But we think we got some too on our side of the ball. It's our job to put our guys in as good of a position as they've been putting their guys. Got a 4-year starter at quarterback that like we're rolling with and riding with. 4-year player. He was up as a freshman when we won the state title. He didn't start, but he played a lot. Not a 4-year starter, 3-year starter. And Brandon Davis Swain's another 4-year varsity kid that played a decent amount as a freshman in the state title game. And, he's just playing at a really high level all over the football field for us. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a matchup of, some really talented football players out there, and a lot of times going head to head, position to position.
That's incredible to have. I was just going to say, it's incredible to have a guy that was a part of that state championship team still, have those kids playing as freshmen on a state championship run and get them, for 4 years with that kind of experience under their belt. I mean, they basically got another half a season of practice as freshmen, right? 14 games, you get those 5 extra weeks. That's right.
COVID
year, so actually it was shortened, right?
Of a year. That was the longest season of all time.
Right.
I was actually at my
because then you guys played it in January. That's right. Yeah. Jeez. So even though you played fewer games, you got a lot of practice.
Yeah.
Think about that. Wow.
Not continuous, I guess, but a lot of practice. And we actually would have had 3 players. Kory Jackson was one of our senior linebackers. He tore his labrum in his shoulder about the end of the first quarter against Chippewa Valley, and he was one of those guys we lost for the year. But we would have had 3 guys that were out there as freshmen. And you're right. It's just like the experience out there. It's invaluable to a coach, especially, first year head coach.
Yeah. That's awesome. Kory, Brett, any other questions or anything you want to add here for Coach Hilbers before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I guess just real quick, Samaj Morgan with the big game last week for the Wolverines.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I'm actually a Michigan State guy, but I tell Bellamy he makes it
Mhm.
really hard for me not to cheer for for Michigan these days. With those kids they put out there, Samaj he's taking the most of his opportunities. Because
Yeah.
he's in a really crowded position group, but the
Mhm.
kid's just a competitor, and it's good. It's cool to really see him go out there and make some plays.
Yeah, I
Devin
think
Gardner.
I saw a
Go for it.
stat. He played 17 snaps the first 3 games, and the last 3 games he's averaging like 17 snaps a game or something. So
Yeah,
he's really getting a lot more playing time.
yeah, that sounds about right. As a young guy, that's just learning everything. And as he gets more and more confident with just his knowledge, but also just being out there,
Yeah.
hopefully he can show more and more what he can do.
I listened to Devin Gardner talk this week, and he was like, somebody needs to cool Samash down. He's like going a little too crazy. Like he's going to have the big freshman head and be doing some ridiculous things here soon.
Hey, yeah, if he figures out how to do that, he should let us all know, man. Samaj was hanging around West Bloomfield since his dad was one of our freshman coaches. So I mean,
Okay.
Samaj was hanging around our program since like 3rd or 4th grade. Just trying to play, like bringing his little Nerf footballs up there and trying to join practice as a little kid.
That's awesome.
So he's been running around forever.
That's
And
cool.
I think it was the Adams game. This is their bye week because I'm just on the sideline. All of a sudden, he's like, someone's like giving me some suggestion. I'm like, who is this? I turn around and it's just him. I'm like, what are you doing here, man? What's up?
That's funny.
Like, give me a headset, coach.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. He would have gone in if I would have let him to. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say better yet, give me a helmet.
Extra year eligibility. Yeah, get it in there.
Yeah.
All right, Kory, Brett, all good then?
Yeah, thanks for coming
All
on,
right.
Coach. Appreciate it. Good
Oh,
luck this
yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Cool. And yeah, appreciate you guys. It's a cool thing you guys got going.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be looking forward to seeing the result of the game Friday night. We'll be cheering on for West Bloomfield, hopefully getting you guys onto the semifinals and continuing this incredible string of success you guys have had. Good luck against Clarkston Friday night, Coach.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. I hope we got one more week. That's all we want.
That's all you can ask for is an opportunity.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, those of you listening, thank you for listening along here with Coach Hilbers. We will transition to our next interview here shortly. Hope you enjoyed our conversation there with Coach Hilbers, head coach of West Bloomfield. We're very excited to see how their matchup here turns out with Clarkston this week, as they'll be facing them Friday night in a regional championship game at West Bloomfield. Good luck to Coach Hilbers and West Bloomfield in that game. With that, we're going to take a little break here between the two interviews, the two coaches that we'll be bringing on. We do still have Coach Cisco coming on here shortly from Byron Center that we'll be talking to about their game and matchup. First of all, their district title game that they just pulled off a big upset over Caledonia, and then their regional championship matchup with East Lansing. Before we get to that, we're going to talk about our games of the week for this week. Our 5 games that we'll be making picks for regional championship games this week. Brett, you want to take that away for us here?
Yes, I can do that.
And Tate, unfortunately, while Brett's getting that pulled up, Tate is not with us tonight, as we already mentioned in the opening. So he will be making his picks off air, and we will get those shared out. Once we get all those picks, we'll share those out on Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. All right. Go ahead, Brett.
So we got a little bit of an assortment this week for week 12, the regional finals. We got games from D1, D5, D7, D8, and D4. For the D1 game, we got 11-0 Rockford versus 11-0 Davison. Probably one of the, honestly, surprisingly, it's probably not the most desirable matchup in the state to go to. I think that's going to be the D5 game with West Catholic and Catholic Central. But
I will say, though, the time, I think, is going to help them, considering that Rockford Davison's at 6 p.m. on Saturday. I think that will help that game out.
They said, I heard a guy say they did that because they wanted D-Zone to be there and they can attend late night games on Saturday. So, so if you're there, look out for D-Zone. What up, Jeff?
So D-Zone will be supporting the Rockford Davison game on Saturday at 6 p.m. Vince, let's go with you. Who do you got in this game?
Sorry, excuse me. I am going to go with Rockford. I think while Davison is a tremendous team, I think this is going to be a hell of a game. I think this might end up being maybe if not the game, definitely one of the best games in all of Division One this year. It's definitely the playoffs, but I just think Rockford is playing much better defense than Davison. If you've been following Davison's season, obviously they've had a very impressive year. But Davison's defense has struggled quite a bit. Obviously, they put up quite a show against Lapeer first round of the playoffs, but they gave up 90 points to Lapeer in 2 games. And while Zach Oleniziak, if that's how you say his name, I'm sorry, I'm not very good at pronouncing that very talented young man's last name, who's committed to Grand Valley, the quarterback for Lapeer. While he's very talented, to give up 90 points to the same team back-to-back weeks, not very good defense there. And Davison has given up almost 220 points on the year, about 22 points per game. About 20 points per game. Whereas Rockford, 110 points on the year. So pretty impressive stuff for Rockford. I'm going to pick Rockford in a very close game here.
I can go next. This is a tough one for me to pick. It's really hard to get a gauge. Rockford probably played the more difficult schedule with some crossovers, primarily with Muskegon winning that game 27-7. Familiar opponents in Granville. Davison took care of Granville pretty easily. Rockford's beat Granville twice. I really think it's the year that the West Side breaks through in Division One. The game's at Rockford, and there's going to be a ton of people there. I bet you there's north of 10,000 people that go to this football game.
Second straight year. Caledonia broke through last year.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I was thinking
traditional D1 teams, because Caledonia is not usually D1.
Yeah, a traditional D1 team with Caledonia playing D2 this year. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Rockford as well.
I'm gonna go with Rockford. Whenever you have 100+ guys in your varsity squad, it's pretty hard to beat. That's just a lot of humans to be better than. That's a lot of depth that you can't really account for at other schools, and that's what Rockford has.
All right, the next one, we got the quote-unquote state championship game in D5. We have 11-0 Grand Rapids West Catholic versus 10-1 Grand Rapids Catholic Central. Catholic Central's only loss coming the first game of the year to Chicago Loyola. 45-7, with the quarterback from that team being former Northwestern head coach Pat Fitzgerald's son. Vince, what do you got in this one?
I think I'm going to go with West Catholic. As good as West Catholic was last year, I think they are even better. They dropped a game to Fruitport last year. They did, even though they won the state title, they did have a blemish on their schedule. This year they beat Fruitport 59-7, if that was a statement enough. In 3 fewer games, they have put up 25 more points already than the entirety of last season in 3 fewer games. And their defense is also better. So this is a West Catholic team that turned around from winning a state title last year and is doing even better. CC is very, very good. I think this is another really good game. Like you guys mentioned, obviously going to be a very well-attended game. I see West Catholic running it back, though. And I agree, this is probably for the state championship, because whoever wins this game, I think, wins the whole thing.
All right, I'm going to change it up a little bit. Actually, no, I'm not. You said you had West Catholic, sorry.
Yeah, I had West Catholic.
I am going to change it up. I'm going to go Grand Rapids Catholic Central.
Ooh.
Grand Rapids, West Catholic playing up a division this year in D5. Typically, they've been D6. Catholic Central has played anywhere from D4 and D5 the last few years. I think that Grand Rapids Catholic Central, having lost a game, understands what it's like to go through a little bit of adversity. Having that happen in week 1, they've rolled teams between now and then. Grand Rapids West Catholic really has only played in one close game this year, and that was a game where they beat Coopersville 17-14 in week 3. But I got the Cougars from Catholic Central winning this battle here.
Interesting.
I'm gonna stick with a fan of the podcast, Landon Grove. No voice, doesn't matter. Jesus didn't need a voice. Landon doesn't need a voice. Landon's going to take this home. West Catholic.
People don't know what the hell you're talking about right now.
All right. We're supposed to have Landon on tonight, but he lost his voice. We've had him on
There
a
you
few
go.
times already.
And if you read the Bible, you knew Jesus didn't have a voice. So.
Yeah, come on, Landon. Figure it out, man.
Anyways, shifting over to D7, we got a game versus Ithaca 11-0 versus 11-0 Ubley.
Ugly.
Ubley.
Blah, 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 blah.
I
D8, rather.
picked Ithaca as my state champion when we did our playoff preview, so I'm not going to go against them now. While I could see Ubley winning this game, I think Ithaca played two way tougher opponents. So as long as they're not beat up from those two games, being 8-1 Fowler, 8-1 Fowler, and then 9-1 New Lothrop, Ubley played Harbor Beach, who is pretty good. But I just think Ithaca played tougher opponents. And again, I picked them to win my state title. So for this division, so I'm going with Ithaca.
I'm going to go with Ithaca as well. All the same reasons that Vince had stated. Both Ubley.
I do want to mention though something crazy. Sorry, Brett, about these two teams. They have both scored they've both scored about the same and given up about the same. They're nearly identical. 503 points scored for Ithaca, 508 points scored for Ubley, 101 points allowed for Ithaca, 104 points allowed for Ubley. I would love to go to this game. Sorry, go ahead.
That statistic is really impressive because the last two games Ithaca's given up 55 points. So half their points have come in the last two games. Wins over
that just shows you the competition they played.
Holy shit.
That shows you the competition they played.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I'm gonna go with Ithaca as well. Kory.
I picked Ithaca as my state champion, and I think if they get through this one, they still have one more crazy game actually. So that's irrelevant, but it's just tough, man. I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna take Ithaca because they're my state champion, but it's tough. I mean, to go through this kind of schedule.
Can I give you another crazy stat?
Yeah.
So 55 points in 2 games. 81 points in 3 games because they gave up 26 to Standish Sterling.
Who's also good.
Yeah.
So 18 points in 8 games. That's an unbelievable defensive stat for Ithaca. Sorry, go ahead.
I will say that Ubley did beat Clarkston Everett Collegiate, who's also still alive in Division 8, 50-13 in week 1 this year. So that's a pretty interesting measuring stick.
Ubley did or Ithaca?
Ubley did.
Ubley, week 1. I mean, that was early in the season, but yeah, that is good. That is a good point.
So we're all following each other here, aside from the GRCC game, West Catholic game. Moving over to D7, Vince, we got North Muskegon 11-0 versus 10-1 Pewamo Westphalia, 2 teams that have squared off earlier in the season.
I believe I picked PW to go to the semifinals. I also am going to stand by my tried and true rule with football, especially high school football. It is so hard to beat a team twice. This is a rematch from week 1. North Muskegon beat PW in a week 1 non-conference matchup, 17-14. And now they get a chance many weeks later. Was it 10 weeks later, whatever it is, to play in the regional championship game. I'm going to go with PW to get some revenge here from the week 1 loss, their only loss of the year.
I'm going to go with PW as well. I think they're going to get the revenge on North Muskegon. Games at North Muskegon, but I think PW is going to win this ball game.
Oh, I don't remember who I picked, but I'll go with PW. Local team, back to their successful ways. I like them.
I will say though that North Muskegon has played a tougher schedule, but PW has history on their side. Their recent history and success is way superior to North Muskegon. So sorry, go ahead.
That is very true.
All right, with that, we'll shift over to D4, the game that we had already talked about a little bit earlier, Portland versus Niles. Kory's going to this game. Kory, I guess with that, we'll start with you. Who do you got in this one?
Oh, God. I'm gonna go with Portland. I mean, they've proven me wrong kind of all season. Based on what I saw, I was like, you know what, they're pretty good, but they're not great. I still stay true to if they play a passing team, they're gonna get trounced. But I also don't know what Niles does, so I'll stick with Portland.
Vincent.
Trying to remember, did I pick Portland? I don't think I picked Portland to go to the semifinals. I'm trying to remember who I picked to go to the semifinals because I hate if I accidentally go pick a team that I did not pick to go to the semifinals in a region here. I don't remember who I picked coming out of this region. I think I'm going to go with Niles. Sorry, Danton. Sorry, Kory.
Wow.
I think Niles has been a little bit more impressive this year. While Portland has had a heck of a season, I think that their playoff points are showing it. They've beaten probably more bad teams than what Niles has had to play. Niles trouncing Paw twice in 3 weeks is very impressive. Those were Pawpaw's only 2 losses of the year, who was a 9-win team and also had a really good season. You could say the same for Portland and beating Sexton twice. I'm going to give the edge to Niles, though. I think this is going to be a really good game.
I'm going to make Vince upset. I had Portland going to my semis, and I like to hedge my bets here. So I'm going to take Niles. Well, there you have it. Those are the winning picks here in column L, with Brett, who's leading the season picks this year at 40-15. Kory's in second place at 38-17. Tate and Vince both tied at 36-19. Tate was 2 games back and made up some ground last week. Vince going 2-3 and Tate going 4-1 in his picks. Again, the loser has to do the beer mile, and we'll see what this week's games hold.
All right. With that, we're going to go ahead and transition into our second interview of the episode, a conversation with Coach Cisco, the head coach of Byron Center since 2009. We'll be chatting with him, obviously, about his big win over Caledonia and their matchup with East Lansing this week. Stay on. That conversation interview is coming at you right now. Going to go ahead and segue into the second interview of this episode for the podcast. We are fortunate enough here to have on Coach Marc Cisco from Byron Center, where he's been the head coach since 2009. He's had stops at several other schools, high schools and colleges, including a head coaching job for 5 years at Battle Creek Lakeview. Byron Center pulled off a big win over a very talented Caledonia team this last Friday night for the district championship. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Coach Cisco, how you doing? Welcome on.
Thanks. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate you coming on. And like we said, I'm sure you're enjoying all this wonderful Michigan weather, getting your guys ready to keep this playoff run going.
Yeah, it's been fantastic the last couple weeks. I didn't know at the end of the season if we're going to have enough money for footballs by the number we were losing in the rain. So
I know I can't believe the rain. I actually coach at Grand Ledge. We've said all season long the amount of rain, especially this last month that we've had, has been unbelievable. Last year was such a nice season. Other than the semifinals, I thought it was a really nice year for football. So hopefully that rain goes away while you guys keep this run going here. But first thing we want to chat with you about here tonight, obviously the game from Friday night, big win, being a Caledonia team that, no offense, Coach, but seeing Caledonia week 1 in the playoffs, or the first round of the playoffs, put up 72 points, especially against a really talented Portage Northern team. I think that had a lot of eyebrows raising across the state to see, that offense put up that kind of, just points on a really good team. I don't know if you want to talk about that game here a little bit, your kind of mentality going into it, what you guys were prepping for. I know Brett wants to talk about it because Brett here, he was at that game, got to watch you guys play.
Sure. I mean, yeah, going into that game, we played them 2 years ago in a muddy field, and we're up early in the game and ended up losing 28-14. had opportunity to score right at the end of the third quarter to make it 21-14, and we slipped and fell, and then they just lined up and beat us up for a quarter. So there was a little bit of familiarity with them going in, and Coach Pennington and I have coached against each other at pretty much every stop we've been at. So there's a little bit
because he was at Zeeland West.
Yep.
Zeeland East.
Or East. Right.
When I was at Kentwood, he was at Grand Haven with Mike Farley, and then when I was in Battle Creek, he was at Loy Norix. So
jeez.
Yeah.
So you guys know each other real well.
Yeah, for sure. But seeing the 72 was pretty shocking. We lost to Portage Northern last year in the playoffs. They're a super talented team that we thought was pretty physically talented as well. But some things go sideways, and they go sideways sometimes with teenagers. They go fast, and that's what happened. And Caledonia was just fantastic in every phase of the game. So we're riding the bus back from Portage Central, just wondering how we're going to hang on to this thing.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of things going sideways, Coach, I think at one point in that game against Caledonia last week, it was 21-7. You guys were down. Can you maybe speak to what the message was to the team at that point in the game?
Pretty much the same. If there's time left, you just got to stick to your guns and keep going. And, offensively, you got to make first downs, and defensively, you have to get off the field. And I kind of thought our kids would handle that pretty well last year. I think we were down to Granville. We played them in game 2. And we were down 32-7 in the second quarter, and ended up getting to that game within a score in the fourth quarter.
Oh, wow.
And so I just really liked our kids' mentality. And we just kept just hang on. Just, we've made some mistakes, and I feel like we've grown from that game, that Granville game 2 years ago, in that stature, and we played well in some games because of that. And Friday night was definitely one of those.
Yeah, your defense definitely had the bend don't break mentality on that last drive. I think Caledonia had a 4th and goal going into the end zone, had a false start and then it was 4th and essentially 13 going into the end zone. You guys were able to get the ball back with 50-some seconds left, drive down the field. It was really interesting. Last play of the game, junior quarterback to junior wide receiver, both tremendous players. I guess you've had a lot of leadership on your team. At least this is the first game I've gone to for Byron Center this year. I was very surprised with how many young guys you got contributing.
Sure. So the quarterback, Landon Tungate, didn't even play quarterback last year as a sophomore. He was a all-conference DB, played for us a little bit as a freshman. Luke Laska, running back, started for us as a freshman as a kick returner. We have, both of us actually had a few 3-year starters that were involved in that game a couple of years ago. So we do have some good young talent. But I got to tell you, our leadership stems from number 23, Blake Otto, Joel Perez, a tackle, a tight end who just came out for football 2 years ago, and Bowden Hurley, our D tackle that caused the fumble there in the third quarter. They're just pretty solid guys. They were never stars, and it's hard to argue with them when they just work so hard.
Yeah, Otto's name was called a lot the other night. I remember hearing his name many times.
Yeah, sure. So we get we had to punt. One of them live reporters said, what was your thinking in punting? And I'm like, there was 7 minutes to go in the game. We had to punt. It was 4th and 7. I mean,
yeah.
4th and 3 is one thing. 4th and 7 is you're crossing your fingers. Yeah. So we had to punt. I thought our defense had played pretty well in the second half. We'd only given up one score up to that point, knowing full well they were just going to try to, run it down your throat with those big guys in the backfield, and they did. And our kids held strong at the end there and got them in the 4th and long. And, they couldn't convert. We had a minute and 1 second to go 88 yards with no timeouts. I'm sure most high schools are pretty excited about doing that. So, it's just a drill. I'm sure everybody does it on Wednesday or Thursday or some day of the week. And, you just try to be smart. You talk to kids about, hey, if the ball is incomplete or out of bounds, we can walk, we can take our time. If we get a first down, let's be on the ball. So if we need to clock it, we can, or we can call a play. And if it's a sack, you better sprint your rear ends off because we're losing time tremendously. And luckily for us, we didn't have a sack. Completions were either out of bounds or for first downs. And we were able to move the ball down the field without really much panic from our kids, I was really happy for them and really impressed them.
So from a defensive standpoint too, Caledonia, before you guys played them, had only scored less than 30 points in a game twice all year. 16 against Rockford, and Rockford I think is spoken for with where they're at in the season. And East Kentwood, their second to last game, which I remember that was the game across the statewide. It was pouring rain. It was really nasty weather, beat them 21-0. So I'm sure if it had been nicer weather, they'd scored more. And then you guys held them below 30, 28, especially coming off games where they went 56 and then 72. Was there anything from a defensive standpoint? I know you probably don't want to reveal any X's and O's, but anything special, especially with Brock Townsend, kid's obviously very talented running back. Anything you guys did special going into that game or in terms of prep to slow that offense down?
Yeah, nothing really special. I mean, Derek does a good job of really getting more hats where the ball is than you do. And if you don't line up correctly and you don't fit things correctly, they're going to crease you. And they can do it in the pass game. They can do it in the quarterback run game. They can do it out of two backs, out of one back.
Yep.
They can throw the ball to his son, who's an outstanding player and blocker. Like, they have a multitude of ways to operate. And he's done a good job of really developing and evolving that offense into being multi-talented. We thought we matched up pretty good in the pass game. And we made a couple of mistakes early in that game that didn't show that, but the run game, you just had to survive and fit things good and hopefully try to get ahead of the chains, and then have a kid miss. And the Betzer kid's a heck of a quarterback. He's going to be really good next year. But he had a miss there, a couple of them, and we had 2 interceptions, and that makes it tough. And then getting the fumble, getting 3 turnovers usually helps in ball games.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's Kory and I actually were texting about this week. There's if you're an analytics guy, that statistic that if you win the turnover battle, it's unbelievable. Exponentially, the percentage that you're going to win the game goes up when you're winning that turnover battle. Pretty hard to especially at high school football. If you're not, the Detroit Lions can overcome that turnover deficit against the Raiders, but at high school football, it's a little bit hard to overcome one of those turnover deficits like that. So to kind of rewind a little bit from that playoff game, district championship game, just to kind of think of the body of work here, season as a whole, was there any moment, any game, special win or even that one loss that was kind of a turning point here for the season to get you guys to a 10-win season and kind of make this run? Any kind of special defining moment that sticks out to you? This is the the moment where I knew, or we knew as a team collectively, that we could make a run.
Pretty unique question. We play a lot of kids between offense and defense and special teams. I think Friday night we played 40 guys total.
Wow. That's
and we're
awesome.
we're not a huge school, but we have kids that if they can play, we're going to try to find a place to get them on the field somehow. And we usually treat our scrimmage like that. So we scrimmage with Rockford, Portage Central, Forest Hills Eastern. And so it can get a little one-sided sometimes in scrimmages because we're just trying to roll kids in and out.
Right.
And we thought when we got on the bus leaving there, like, that was all right. Like, you take it on the chin a couple of times, you get in some bad matchups. But as long as the kids understand, the coaches understand what you're trying to get done in that scrimmage, you might be okay. When we went to Kentwood in game 2, we lose our starting quarterback in the second series of the game. We lose his backup in the first series of the third quarter. We're playing with a running back in the backfield.
Wow.
He goes down. Now we're down to 2 JV kids that we pulled from the JV game, so we had enough quarters to play guys, and we were still able to score 33 points in that game.
Yep.
And play really good defense. That was that. Hey, we just played pretty well and beat what we thought was a pretty good team at the time, pretty physical team, guys that probably weren't expecting to play at all. And then we continued on. And when we played Forest Hill Central, I distinctly remember we moved the ball really well the first series. We didn't score. But I think it was the second or third play of the the first defensive series. We got a tackle for loss on the quarterback, and just the way it evolved, I won't forget it because our kids, we ended up actually getting a 15-yard penalty on it to finish it off. It wasn't really malicious or anything like that, but it probably should have been called because that sets the tone for the game at that point.
Right. But
really had just an outstanding defensive effort in our own zone at the time, and I thought, well, shoot, we'll be okay. We could be decent. And we were fortunate enough to win that game 15-14. and to give up 14 points.
I think it's still their only loss too.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So it was, I got to tell you, our guys in the box were like, oh, we had this, we had that. And I just kept going, you need to come down. This is a violent high school game. Like it is. There are guys playing their tails off. There are safeties fitting runs at 2 yards who are lining up at 14.
That's phenomenal.
I'm good friends with Greg Huckins from high school and his son Ty. And I'm like, he's really good. Like, and he's super physical, and everything's happening at the line of scrimmage. It's not happening anywhere else. So just to survive that, I thought, shoot, okay, we can be physical if we need to be. We had to throw the ball 36 times that night because we weren't running against them. And I just felt really fortunate after that, and then we go play Lowell, and they had really perfect game plan. I think they had 72 offensive plays. We had 30 for the whole game.
Oh, Jesus.
Wow.
And they did a great job. They converted on third downs. Their quarterback was super talented. They had some nice pass completions on third down to keep their offense on the field. And so, a guy asked me today, said, well, I hope that loss is good. And I'm like, no loss is good. Like, but they played fantastic. We did not play well defensively at all. And our kids kind of took that to heart. And then we get to East Grand Rapids and shut them out. The weather was bad for sure. It was definitely a factor. But that game was a close game, but it never felt like it was out of control. You never felt like if you were going to lose, it was because somebody was going to slip and fall, not because, you were getting beat up. And
right.
In that game, we were real physical. And at that, so we thought, shoot, if you get into the playoffs and you're a physical team, you have a chance. You always have a chance if you don't turn it over.
Mm-hmm.
Physical high school ball just hits different. I mean, when you play in a team, I'll never forget when we were coaching Vince, we played Davison and what had to have been 19, whatever year they won the title. Yeah,
their state championship year.
That was the most physical football team I'd ever seen touch a field. And it was like within the first series, I looked at other coaches. I coached D-line. I go, we're in for a very, very long night because they were just hitting everything so hard. So that's good. Can't teach physicality, right? Can't teach it.
No, and I tell you, when we get off the bus, we're not going to scare anybody. So, and I'm real honest with our kids, and guys like you told me, I'm like, yeah, we're going to be honest with them, and they all know that. They know what they look like and what they're going to have to do to perform, and if we can do those things, we'll be able to compete. And we've been able to do that, and it's kind of like Bill Belichick. We always tell kids too, like his comment is, teams in the NFL don't win them, they lose them.
Yeah.
Lose games. And if you get, when you get into the playoffs, teams usually lose games. They find ways. They have a penalty, a turnover, something funky, a block kick, which we had 2 of Friday night. But, we were able to overcome that just because our kids just kept hung in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at that level, when everyone is talented, everyone's the best. It really is who's making more mistakes because everyone's playing well. Yeah, that's very true. That gets exacerbated very quickly. So let's move here. Let's wrap things up by moving here to the game at hand. Got East Lansing, obviously, here Friday night, 7 p.m. Very talented East Lansing team. Jace Clarizio, running back, very good running back. Charlie Baker, talented wide receiver. So you got a few tough matchups there again offensively. Very physical team as well. So, but you guys are physical. You guys are playing great football as well. So excited for that matchup. Any special message to your team as you're prepping here going into this game against East Lansing, a team that was playing for a regional title last year against Forest Hill Central as well, came up just short in that one.
Sure. No special messages. You get a moment, you better take advantage of it. They don't last very long. Enjoy it. And this team we're playing is typical East Lansing team. Even from way back in the Jeff Smith era, there's going to be a really good running back who's super fast and not afraid. There's going to be a really good receiver. There's going to be a tough quarterback. There's going to be a defense that plays pretty basic, pretty standard stuff, but they are going to run you down and try to knock you on your tail. And that's what we see on film. And, Coach Frocco's been there a long time. He's a Pennsylvania tough guy for sure. Yep. And, his kids really epitomize what that is. And it's a little unique because there's no familiarity amongst kids, that's
right.
Really the first time for our guys, but, they are just, they seem that they're at that point every year. And last year, Forest Hill Central had him down early and we thought had him on the ropes. and they battled back in that game, and that was a heck of an ending to that. So they're a team that's used to being at that point. So there's nothing they're going to be afraid of.
Is anything special that anyone listening who might be going to the game or just any fans of either team that they should be watching for, any matchups, any certain sides of the ball that they should be paying close attention to?
Yeah, I'm not that kind of guy. Like, we're not anything special, anything, officials always ask, what do you have special for us? And I said, if we do anything special, it was an accident. So we didn't do that stuff on purpose, but it should just be a real good high school game amongst really good high school teams, some super talented kids, just getting after each other for sure. I mean, the tailback he's lightning in a bottle, and that's, if you're not afraid of speed as a coach, then you're a fool. And he's got it. And then, you got the big receiver who's been there, played with him in the playoffs as a freshman. So shoot, they just, they had some issues early in the season when they lost those 2 games, and those have definitely disappeared with the quarterback situation working its way out, and Jay's taking over at tailback. They're awfully good, and defensively the same. They play hard, they chase. Man, they're fun to watch. They really are in film.
Yeah, had to go up against them. I coach at Grand Ledge, so, and unfortunately I'm the defensive coordinator at Grand Ledge, so I had to worry about figuring out how to stop those guys a couple weeks ago, and didn't go so well for us, unfortunately. So I hope, good luck to you, Coach. I hope it goes a little bit better for you than it did for us. Brett and Kory, any other questions here for Coach Cisco before we wrap things up?
Appreciate your time, Coach.
Yeah, thanks,
you're busy.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys having us on and treating high school football like it's bigger than it is. It makes a lot of fun for everybody who follows you guys and kids who follow you guys. And it really makes people feel important and can enjoy this time of year. So thank you.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate the kind words. Yeah, we enjoy talking about high school football. That's for sure. Well, all right. Anyone who's listening, please stay on here. We will wrap this episode up here shortly. Hope you enjoyed our conversation interview there with Coach Cisco of Byron Center. Good luck to Coach Cisco and his team as they face East Lansing in this regional championship matchup this Friday night. We'll be watching, paying attention, looking forward to a lot of great playoff games this weekend. So we're going to wrap things up here. Just really quickly want to mention a couple things around small college football here in the state of Michigan, and just a couple other notes before we wrap things up. So first of all, got to mention Alma, who has been nationally ranked all year, finishes the year. They have one game left technically, but they did clinch the MIAA championship for a second straight year. I don't know if you guys can confirm this. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at their archives, but if they've won 2 straight MIAA championships, there's 2 straight conference championships, it's been a very long time. I know that when they won the outright MIAA championship last year, that it was the first time in it was the first time in a while for them. Mm-hmm. So to win 2 in a row, they go 10-0 last year. They're 9-0 right now. They should win their week, 11 matchup because they all get a bye week. But they end at Albion, who's not going to be a slouch. Albion is sitting at 7-2 right now, and did play
coach.
Yep. Coach Rundle's former Coach Rundle's son, Craig was the former head coach. Now it's Travis Rundle. Yep. So now it's not going to be a slouch by any means. It'll be a tough matchup for Alma, but Alma, even in tough matchups this year, Alma's just been crushing everybody. I still can't believe. I mean, they've scored 462 points in 9 games.
Holy shit. What is that, 60 points a game?
Yeah, let's do quick maths on that one. That is 51 points per game.
Jeez.
462 points, 51 points per game. Very impressive. And they've only given up 150. So that would be 150 in 9 games. That's less than 17 points per game that they're giving up. So playing great defense too. So what's pretty cool is we have a little connection with Hope College. We know one of their coaches, so we were talking with him this weekend. Hope actually has the sixth toughest strength of schedule in the nation. So even though they're 8-2 right now, they lost. Their two losses are to Alma, who's nationally ranked and undefeated, and Aurora out of Illinois, who's nationally ranked and undefeated. But they also beat Mount St. Joseph, who is nationally ranked, and that's their only, and Mount St. Joseph's only loss, and they went to the playoffs last year. So Hope has a chance, very outside shot at an at-large bid. The problem is that in Division 3, there are only 4 total at-large bids nationally, because there are 28 conference champs who get automatic bids. So very tough to get that bid. As we always talk about, that Wisconsin conference typically gets one team in. Usually the Texas, one at-large bid in addition to their champion. The Texas conference usually gets an at-large bid in addition to their champion, so going to be pretty tough for Hope to get in. But I guess we shall see. We'll be watching closely.
So, Vince, I was looking up some of the archives here. I don't know if they ended up winning the conference, but the last time Alma had back-to-back undefeated conference records was 1967 and 1968.
So it's been a while. I would imagine if they went undefeated in the conference, that they were probably they would be conference champs.
Yep.
They've been in the MIAA since that time. So, yeah, been a long time.
Prior to that, it was 1942 and 1941. We're talking World War periods.
Jeez.
Jesus
So
Christ.
pretty so pretty remarkable season or 2-year stretch here for Alma. I can't see it. I got to watch them. I actually went to a game. I watched them play the game at Hope earlier this year, and they're very good. Hope is very good, but Alma is just tremendous. They have a quarterback who anytime you got a quarterback who can run, man, I mean, he's got receivers that are dangerous. If they're not open, he takes off. They also have a pretty fast, shifty running back. Just a really tough offense and a very physical defense. So they're good. They're talented. I could see them making. Last year they made it to the second round of the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if they made it to the regional championship game this year. So we'll see.
Did they be the first MIAA team to actually do something in the playoffs?
No, trying first Michigan team since Albion. Albion won the national championship in 1995. I've talked about this on the podcast before. Since Albion won the D3 national title in 1995. So that is 28 years. The only team that has gotten out of the first round of the playoffs from the MIAA is Trine, and then Alma last year. Trine got out of the first round 3 or 4 times over the last 15 years. Even one year, I think they made it to the third round. I think there was a year that Trine actually made it to the third round of the playoffs. So Alma got beat second round last year, actually won a first round playoff game. So. All right. With that, unless you guys have anything else to add, let's briefly talk here D2 before we wrap things up, unless you guys want to add anything else at the very end. But I just wanted to mention GLIAC here. So GLIAC football, obviously Grand Valley, we already know, beat Ferris State a couple weeks ago. Those two have continued to roll since. At this point, they're going to be wrapping up their seasons this week with Ferris State hosting Wayne State. That should, I'm assuming, be a blowout win for Ferris State. Wayne State's not had a very good year. Grand Valley State plays Davenport. I think they blew them out last year. Davenport, shouldn't be a slouch for them, but Grand Valley is very, very good. Grand Valley's sitting at 8-1, Davenport's 8-1, and Ferris State's 7-2. The D2 regional rankings came out, and in the region that the GLIAC is in, Super Region 3, Grand Valley is number 2, Ferris State's number 5, and Davenport is looking outside in on the playoffs right now at 8-1. Very tough region. So unfortunately, I would imagine Davenport is probably going to get beat by Grand Valley unless they pull off a miracle upset. And unless they get some luck from some teams around them losing, it is likely that Davenport will not make the playoffs for a second year in a row, as they did make the playoffs last year.
Is this the first year in a while that Grand Valley is the favorite going into the playoffs to win a national title over Ferris?
Right, and so Grand Valley's only losses to Colorado School of the Mines on a last-second field goal. I think that was the first game of the year. And School of the Mines is 10-0 and number 1 in their region, so not obviously a bad loss. And Ferris State's 2 losses are to Grand Valley and at Montana, who is one of the top teams in FCS Division 1 AA. So,
but Grand Valley handled them. I mean, that wasn't even close.
They did. I feel like Grand Valley would have beaten Montana with the way they played.
Mm-hmm.
I saw
Montana. Fun fact for you here: Montana's ranked number 3 in the nation right now in FCS.
There's this guy called Bill Connolly on Twitter. He posts. He ranks all the teams from all divisions on the same chart, which is pretty cool. But the interesting one he had this week was that Grand Valley would be a 2-point favorite versus Western, who just knocked off Central last night.
Jesus Christ.
Very interesting. And then Michigan.
Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if Grand Valley wouldn't surprise me if Grand Valley beat Western. That Grand Valley's that good. Just like Ferris State, any given year could probably, like even last year, beat a lower tier MAC school. They're that talented. Very talented. So all right. Anything else we want to add? Lions 6-2, coming out of the bye week, getting healthy. Very excited about their matchup with the Chargers on Sunday. So hopefully get them another win. They got a heck of a stretch here. 3 games in 12 days, I think it is, or 3 games in, because they got to go Sunday, Thursday.
I will say, I mean, they're playing on the West Coast this week, so it's a late game time. I do kind of miss the Lions playing at 1 p.m. on Sunday. They've only done it 2 or 3 times this year.
Yeah, like I said, a Monday night game, Thursday night game. Then we getting the later games on Sunday as well. Yeah.
We always say it's a must win, but this is one of those games. If you want to be an elite team in the NFL, you've got to beat above average team in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, is this a home game or are they at the Chargers?
They're at Chargers.
They are at the Chargers. Okay.
Then they're home for the majority of the rest of the season.
Yeah. And we still have to play the Vikings twice. We still have to play the Bears twice.
Well, the Vikings are playing a little bit better football than I thought they would be. What, they ripped off 4 straight wins, I think. So
yeah, they got Josh Dobbs. The Josh Dobbs win is a fluke.
Josh Dobbs is a naked Morat.
Let's all shave our eyebrows for Josh Dobbs.
Hey, you better be careful. He has alopecia. Will Smith might slap you.
That's okay.
It's quite the connection for anyone who can figure that joke out.
Yep.
All right. With that, unless you guys got anything to add, I think we could probably wrap this one up.
Yes,
yeah, Vince, you got the recommendation of the week for us?
I might save it for the next episode because I recommend a show that I haven't quite finished yet, so I want to watch the whole thing before I recommend it. So,
all right. Well,
anyway,
be on the edge of our seats for next week.
2 weeks, right? Because aren't we gonna? Oh, we're gonna do an episode next week, or are we gonna? I thought we were waiting for our Final Four. Oh yeah, next week would be the Final Four preview, wouldn't it? Yeah. So we'll have Cannon on. We got to talk with Cannon. We'll get Cannon on Goose Poop for our Final Four and state championship preview episode, which will be probably next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that.
I'll be hunting all week, so you'll be without me.
Well, great, Brett. Well, great. Well, I guess we're not doing it then. Lovely.
Well, no, I'll be able to do it. I'll just be in Chicago.
All right. Well, with that, let's wrap up episode 50 here. Very special 50 episodes, 50, baby. Thank you for listening, following along. If you like what you've listened or watched, follow us on Twitter at GLSF Ball. Instagram, you can follow us there at Great Lakes State Football. Subscribe to our video episodes on YouTube, Great Lakes State Football. You can also find Great Lakes State Football on Apple and Spotify for all the audio versions. Make sure if you're interested in the NeuroPeak Pro that you use our 20% off discount with the link in the description of this episode. Thank you for listening. I am Vince with co-host Kory and Brett for episode 50 here. Great Lakes State Football. Go Lions and go Chargers.
Go Blue. Go Blue. And share this page.